All right, let's get started. Welcome everyone to From Intention to Action, Navigating Consumer Shifts and Trade Tensions. My name is Vanessa Topazer. I'm a Senior Vice President at IMI International. Really happy that you're here, and we're really excited to share our findings with you from our ongoing research as trade tensions continue across the globe. Now, there are a lot of new faces that are in the crowd, so just going to spend a couple of minutes on IMI just for some context. So we are IMI International. We're an independent consumer insights company, proudly founded in Canada in 1971. We are proudly Canadian. We work with over 200 clients across 45 different countries globally. And we're constantly monitoring consumer sentiment across countries, demographics, categories, and brands. So we're always in field looking to understand what's going on in the consumer's world. Our core purpose is insight driving profit, meaning that we are really laser focused on uncovering the essential insight to help our clients make strong decisions, whether it's at the beginning of your marketing journey with discovery or right through to confirmation of direction and optimizing your efforts in market to maximize results and ROI. Now, this is an open invitation to join the ongoing conversation and contribute to the conversation. We are constantly in field, as you can see here. We are presenting today the webinar April 15th, but we have been in field for 1, 2, 3, 4 other waves before this, just have not reported out necessarily. We've had so many questions coming from multiple vantage points where we're really looking to help guide marketers and business owners on how to make strong decisions as everything keeps on changing in the universe around us. And some of the questions that have come to us are on messaging, on creative, on positioning, on campaign, on targeting, on I'm a US brand, what do I do in the Canadian market? I'm a Canadian brand, what does that mean for me in other markets? So what you're seeing today is really sound bites of what we have in our arsenal. So please feel free to reach out now. Please feel free to reach out ongoing, and we'll do our best to help guide you on your journey right now. And on that note, I will be back on May 29th to really talk about how to accelerate your brand in turbulent times. So bringing this conversation to a brand level where we will have fresh consumer research from over 25,000 intercepts to quantify the impact, change, and action across the North American market. We're going to dive into people, into categories, into brands, into issues, into why people buy in 2025. So again, we have insight that we are going to share on the 29th. But if you have any questions and you want to look into anything with your brand specifically, please don't hesitate to reach out and to shoot us a line. Now, I'll leave this here just for a second so you can scan if you want to register now. We are also going to bring this back at the end of the presentation. So if you can't get it now, you can feel free to scan it. So let's get into why we're here today. I'll introduce our global managing partner, Don Mayo. Welcome, Don. Don's going to take us through Wave 4 of tariffs, update on attitudes and actions. Can't wait to hear what you're going to talk about, Don.
Hey, Vanessa, thanks a lot, and thanks everyone for showing up. As always, we will have a recording and the actual deck for your consumption later on, or in a couple days, and obviously ask questions in the chat. So tariffs, it changes every day. We had March 31st information, but then again, we had a bunch of changes in what was going to happen worldwide on tariffs, what's happening in China, what's happening in Canada. Are the automotive on? Are they off? Are the electronics on, off? So it changes all the time. We're trying to provide some guidance where brands, properties, clients can actually take fact-based actions independent of the time to drive business. So in the news, constantly changing. It's never positive. It's always disruptive, or rarely positive, always disruptive. And there's a lot more noise than action. From Trump to Musk to market plunge to 125% tariffs to Iran to patriotism. And for Canadians, up, down, sideways, we need to act. We need to actually take advantage and act and respond to what's going on. There's two different realities. Canadian economy shed 32,600 jobs in March, and the U.S. surprised people adding 228,000 jobs. So it's up and down. The markets are different. We've always been different. We've worked in the U.S. at office in the U.S. for 25 years now. Tremendous number of clients there, and the responses are, what's going on? Like, people are asking tons of questions without much guidance. So there's more noise than anything. So we believe, go and talk to consumers, find out what they're actually thinking, more importantly, with how they're acting, and actually provide guidance based on that fact. So let's dive in. First thing, awareness of dispute. Is anyone aware of it? A lot of times we go and test stuff, and it's awareness is 50%, 60%, 70% is a big number. Right now, April 12th, 92% in Canada, 82% in the US. Up 8% since late February here. The 92% has been around for a month. We've seen it as high as 95%, but 5 to 8% will never know anything. That's universal awareness, which is the first time we've really seen something like that in the marketplace. COVID is the last time that would be there, but more people were actually disregarding COVID than are disregarding this tariff trade war, not just between US and Canada, but we're talking globally. Across the country, we're getting asked a lot of questions. Anyone in Quebec care? Anyone in the West know? Well, 90% awareness. Don't worry about 88 versus 93. They're the same numbers. There's universal awareness. Let's look by profile. Across the board, universal. Youth, not quite as high awareness, but still 9 and 10. 45 plus are really quite aware and acting strongly against it. What's the impact on the people? So this is perceptions. US, most concerned in my lifetime, most extremely, very, somewhat or not. So we get 5 different scales. Most concerned ever, extremely concerned, very concerned, somewhat concerned, not at all concerned. We can see here in April 2025, it's increased 9% since Feb 2025. So it's at 34%. So 1 in 3 people in the US are actually impacted, and that's gained tremendously since Feb 2025. So we think the Canadian population's had a massive impact. The US population is concerned about ability to afford, the economic condition, and their personal financial condition. So they are going to see potential downturn given the fact that people are afraid. That's not surprising. Most ever, extremely or very, 76% ability to afford day to day. That's up 11%. That's a big, big number. And I mean, in the US, you're looking at 12 million households, right? In the US, you're looking at 30 million people that are actually more afraid or more concerned today about the ability to live day to day than they were just 6 weeks ago. In Canada, not as high. Surprising. The US has more turmoil than Canada, and if you're in Canada, you don't care. If you're in the US, you don't care, but it's good frame of reference because a lot of companies deal in both places. But again, ability to afford to live day to day, 70%. So 7 and 10, it's a big number. Economic conditions, 79%, so 8 and 10. And the personal financial position, some concern, is still high across the board, but it is increasing. Less so in Canada, significantly in the US because they have so much more turmoil there. If we look at delays, one of the big things is the housing market is not doing that well. We're talking Canada, US is not doing that well. Other things, are people actually delaying major purchases, home renovations, that kind of stuff? What we see, an overwhelming 2/3 of Canadians have or intend to delay any major purchase or spend due to the current tariff and economic uncertainty. This was completed and analyzed this weekend. So this is right now. So 43% of Canadians have delayed. These are all the different profiles. We see 60, 45 plus, bigger percentage of delayed. Again, income, all about the same. Whether they have kids or not, about the same. And geographically, about the same. It's 4 and 10. Another 2 and 10 are going to delay. In total, you see 2/3 of the population, independent of demographic, independent of geography, are going to delay a major purchase. We know that is not good for our economy. We know that's not good for retail. We know that's not good for home sales, auto sales, and the rest. So these things are having dramatic impact. That's nothing new. We're just quantifying that 2/3 of people. In the past 2 months, among people in the market to consider a house or condo, 30% have delayed this due to market realities. So March, April is always the big months through the summer for housing. Well, that's not going to be the case here. The fact is, there's some significant downward pressure, as we know, and it's just we're trying to size it. 3 in 10 again are down. I've started to look for other job opportunities due to fear of losing my job. Not a great sentiment. 23% have started to look for other job opportunities in the past 2 months. And in total, 42% of employed have or intended to look for other job opportunities. So people are out there, people are scared, people are concerned financially. This again will supercharge the fact of delaying purchasing. So you're sitting back and going, there's a lot of shitty news here. What do we do as a brand? Product, service, property. There's lots you can do. There's lots of opportunities to actually go and engage in Canada, US, or globally. So companies are bringing their affinity to Canada live through messaging and visual cues. So let's go through and see what's going on. Purchasing made in Canada. You look at it, both countries are moving towards made in my country. So in the US, 41% have bought products because it's made in the US. 68% in Canada. It used to be the inverse of that. But since the trade wars, Canada has actually acted, not just thought. It's up 16% in the past 6 weeks. Think about that. 30 million people, 18 plus, 16, that's 4.8 million people have purchased a Canadian product in Canada because it's made here. The US, it's also up. So there's increased patriotism or protectionism in the US as well. So both are going to buy their own. Long term, that can have a dramatic positive impact for the Canadian marketplace. If we look at over time, have purchased because it was made in Canada, over 20 million people. Feb 7th was 51, gone to 63 in Feb 18th, up to 68 March 31st, and flat for the last 2 weeks. So you'll never get to 90% because people just don't care that much, even though they'll say it. But the say-do principle, 68% of the 92% aware is a big, big number. That's action. That's action at its best. This has hit the heartstrings of what's going on. So it's crucial and impressive at the commitment to what's going on. Across the country, again, people saying, well, we understand Canada, but is Quebec different? Actually, 70% have gone out of the way to buy made in Canada. They are actually more active, more vocal, with greater action than the rest of Canada. Marginally, but still, you don't have to worry about this is a national united front. Canada's probably never been this united since the 40s. We don't go back there, obviously. How about by age and profile? So there's by geography. Male, female, higher female than male, but both significant. 45 plus, 75%. They're acting. They're acting with their wallets, and they're going to continue to act with their wallets. Brands have an opportunity to impact them for a long period of time. You have to remember, as you hit 45 plus, you are set in your ways of how you consume media, what products you brand, what your favorite products are, what you won't buy. Here's the one time brands can actually interject, intercept, engage, elevate, and actually capture a percentage of these people. Once in a lifetime opportunity. Have not seen 45-year-olds act. They talked about it, they get angry. This is the one time they're acting with their pocketbook. You have a chance to change. And I've never seen this in the 30 plus years I've been doing this, which is a tremendous opportunity to act now if you want to look at the most affluent group of people that are aging, that have monies across the board, or if you're a mass consumer good, same thing, because they don't typically change behavior. Purchase because it's made in Canada by region. This is have done it, 68%. This is have or intend to. So they claim up to 85%. So it might increase, might go into the low 70s. It will not get to 85%. If they haven't acted by now, they probably won't. And it's equal intention across all different regions. So we can be comfortable and confident that this is here for a while. And it's going to probably extend through the turmoil of not just terrorists, but just the unrest of what's going on in the marketplace. How about purchasing local? One thing's made in Canada, everyone wants local or provincial. We've talked a lot about this. So remember, it's moved from 50, purchasing made local has moved from 57 to 62%. Remember, made in Canada is 68%. We've done a lot of stuff on this. Our last webinar on this showed you that made in Canada is the strongest, or Canadian is the strongest, the Canadian flag is the strongest, followed by local, don't go provincial. In Quebec, you can go provincial, but still made in Canada is going to have more universal appeal. It's not going to be negative, it just won't be as strong. Actions they've taken to be informed. We've never seen this before. But this is Feb 18th, March 31st, and today. So looked at packages to see where the product was made. No one's ever done that. They barely look at nutritional labels. Yes, that's increased. QR codes only became popular because of COVID, where there was no touch. But it's gone from 58 to 63%. We're flat from 60 to 63% in a couple weeks, not a big move. Search to see where the product's made before purchasing. That means searched out actively, 60%. Discuss not buying American-made goods with family, 54%, only up 1% or 3% in the past 6 weeks. Searched online to see who owned the company, which I've never seen before at this level. It's at 46%, so 1 in 2, but don't expect that to go up. Our opinion is based on the trending. These actions are at a peak, a very high peak, but they're not going to increase significantly. Whereas purchasing can continue. Can you get your brand in front of people? Can you get your brand to be recognized and noticed? And the way to do that is activate and engage. We talk about that constantly. You have to activate and engage to actually be noticed. Can't just be wallpaper. Impact of tariffs on Canadians' intention. So Canadians are ready to act unite against. And if we look at this, relative to 2024, over the next 12 months in 2025, how often will you purchase brands, products, and services that are made in Canada? 44% up. Okay, it's across the board, very strong. Made in my community, 39%. This is Canada versus local. Made in the US, minus 45%. That is a massive, massive decrease. So again, American brands go, they employ a lot of great Canadians. They themselves are Canadians working for American brands. Go, what do I do? Well, the point is, you employ a lot of Canadians. Maybe you should tell them that. Maybe you should put a Canadian flag around it. You could say that's washing it, but the point is, you are embracing Canada. So the point there is, how do we actually activate regardless of who you are? So that there's a time-sensitive opportunity for companies to act now or lose the opportunity to differentiate yourself. At one point in time, it's not going to be as prevalent. At one point in time, they're not going to actually pay attention because there's going to be a Canada flag everywhere. Right now, in April, we already hear that question, but we'll show you what the results are later about what Canadians are thinking. They are actively engaged and continue to be. Actions taken the past month. Canadians not buying products made in the U.S. Again, so remember, 68% bought Canada's products because they're made in Canada. That was the prior stuff. So 68% bought products because they're made in Canada. This is the reverse edge. I'm not buying a product because it's made in the US. And it's gone up significantly from 42 to 52%. This has not ended yet. This is not going to end until you look at the cabinet and President Trump and the actions that they'll take will end or dismiss this. But still, this is something here to stay when you get 52% acting. Across the board, again, it's 62% in Quebec, just for a quick call out. It's large across the board. The answer isn't it's bigger in Quebec, it's universal across. People are acting not only pro-Canada, but against made in the US. And the point we've talked about before is choose positivity. Focus on Canada first. Don't trash anyone. No negativity. Negativity does not withstand time. Positivity will, because it'll build your brand. It'll build something different and make you exceptional or have the opportunity to be exceptional. Future intended actions. Canadians' intention to avoid entirely made in the US, meaning they don't want to see it again. They'll avoid it entirely. So net more minus, so I will avoid entirely 27%. 1 in 4. I will purchase less, 30%. No change. I'll purchase more. So there are Canadians saying, I'm going to buy more. So don't think it's just a one-way street, but it is a significant transition. So you see 4 in 10 are going to buy less. It's consistent. Two sides to the coin. The pro made in Canada, the anti made in the US. We strongly suggest across IMI, everything we've ever tested, everything we've ever looked, the longitudinal nature is negative advertising, negative sentiment does not last that long. People want positivity. People respond to positivity. So we would suggest choose positive. By different brackets, same number, but look at 45 and older. 36% are going to avoid made in the US. And this again gives you brands an opportunity to actually influence. If you're an American brand, you need to get something in there about something local, something with employees, something to actually have some education. To the point is you educate or employ a lot of good Canadian people. You support the Canadian economy. And the fact is not to wash it, but just get credit for what you do, or you can lose that older cohort, which actually can represent a significant amount of money and expenditure. Other countries' products purchased to avoid made in the US. So this is how far Canadians are going. This is disturbing to me because we are actually focused on the negative and we could actually focus on the positive and actually These products, instead of buying these countries, they can be buying Canadian first. So made in Europe, it's gone from, so let's purchase a product made in Europe to avoid made in the US. This is among Canadians. 34% went to 43, stayed at 43%, but it's up 9%. Again, 10%, 9% of Canadians, you're looking at 2.7 million. The one that blows my mind is China. People are going out of their way to buy made in China to avoid made in the US. And maybe they should go do a little bit more work on what's going on with China, but they don't care. The point is, all these purchases or a portion of these purchases would be Canada first if we made it made in Canada first. And that's where we need to take the sentiment as a country. And this is not a brand's job. This is the politician's job. This is the government's job. This is municipality's job to actually get that voice out there to go Canada first, to maximize the benefit. But this is how far people are going. So let's go a little further. If we look at purchase products made in China, geographically, again, Quebec higher, Atlantic higher, across the board strong. By profile, it's pretty consistent. Youth, significantly higher percentage buying made in China than the rest of the cohorts, but it does not matter. The fact is, let's call it a third of the people are doing this, and there's an opportunity for Canadians. Purchase products made in Europe to avoid the US, again, across the board significant, with Quebec leading the charge. They are acting the most with their wallets, and it is tough for them to act. Not tough, but the English-speaking Canadians, North Americans in general, English-speaking, like things a bit more. We accept average as being an Anglophone here. Quebecers much more discerning. They like it or love it or hate it, and hate it a lot. And in this case, they can see here the actions are they're actually acting with their wallets. Their behavior is going to change, and their behavior may change really long term and sustain because there is an anger there that we've not seen before from this group of people, which is they have the right to do so. So that's fantastic. It extends way beyond just purchasing. How about travel? We've heard all the rhetoric and what's going on, but change travel plans away from the US. It's gone up from 28% to 39%, up 11%. That's a lot of people. And they claim we don't need the Canadians down there. Well, there's going to be Canadian destinations that are going to be devastated by this fact. That's 4 in 10 have changed plans. Doesn't mean that they won't go back there. It just means they've changed plans to date. Canceled's a big deal. It's gone from 22 to 34%, up 12%. Huge increase, and we assume it's going to increase greater. It's going to affect a long time away because people plan trips 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. If you are a destination, you have to be out there communicating now. You have to take advantage of this opportunity to be a destination. If you're an attraction, if you're a sporting event, a concert, a festival, you need to be out there inviting people in. This is the opportunity now. It's not going to load. The window is going to close on it, but people are changing plans. Are we taking advantage of it? Proactively, you need to spend money. People are cautious spending money, but it'll reap rewards. When a third of Canadians have canceled a trip, where's that money going? Maybe it's going in their pocket, which is fantastic. But people love to travel. It's one thing that excites them. So where do we sit there? If you look across the board, just look at this 125 plus. It's almost 4 in 10 among people making over 125 grand. So the more luxury the vacation, the more inclusive the vacation, the more kids with the vacation, the bigger opportunity there is for Canadians to actually intercept those people. Other factors, travel in Canada, what's their intention in the next 12 months? Up 48%. Stay in hotel in Canada, up 43%. Visit friends in Canada, up 43%. Buy tickets to venues in my city, up a third. What are all the venues doing? What are all the museums doing? What are the zoos doing? What's going on to actually attract? Buy tickets to concerts, up 21%. You can see cross-border shopping down 12, travel to the United States down 19. So there's even you see the 34% that canceled, there's even greater. And it's just not that, it's cross-border shopping, it's travel to the US. We have more information on retail, on switching brands, which Vanessa and the team will share with shortly, to give you some more information on how impactful this is being across the board. So recommended action, focus on Travel Canada, explore Canada, search out Canada, buy tickets for, visit. The fact is they're there, they're salivating, they want to move. And when you invite them back, front-facing, happy people. The fact is, they want to be with friends. They don't want to be with 100,000 people. They want to be traveling with friends. A lot of people, this will turn off. And the point is, you don't accidentally show this. I showed this last time, but how you appear and how you invite back is crucial to make sure it's a welcoming view, not something that people don't aspire to be at. We have to remember to invite them back. I've had too many clients say, like, our numbers aren't up. Did you do anything different? No. Did you go out and invite your last 5-year attendees back? No. Did you do extra media? No. Did you? And the point is, they're not just going to come. There's too much competition. You have to actually act. You actually have to invite them back. You actually have to do things. You have to strategy and put a plan together. Just because you build it doesn't mean they're going to come. If you're really lucky, they will, but more times than not, they won't. Whether you're a bar, restaurant, venue, event, platform, concert, festival, you have to invite people back. Intended impact on auto, which is obviously a big deal right now. As of this morning, they might not do Canadian auto parts. They might, who knows, at some point in time, it's going to be screwed up again. So we asked future intention to purchase a car. Buy a car assembled made in the US on the far right, down 12%. Even though it's half the parts are from Canada, like they're coming back and forth. I don't know how many times between Canada, US, and Mexico. Buy Chinese car up 8%, Japanese up 19, German up 19, and buy a car assembler made in Canada up 44%. That's a big deal. They're going to go out of their way. Now, price will obviously come into account, but that is their intention right now. As you can see, the difference between assembled in Canada versus assembled in the US. And in fact, parts come from both the parts come from both countries. So now we look at messaging. We collected and monitored what brands have been doing across different touch points, tested 40 different options, measured consumer reaction to these messages based on one thing. What are they going to purchase? So here's a whole bunch of messages from Made in Canada, Canadian made, proud of Canada, made in the province, dairy farmers of Canada, egg farmers, chicken farmers, genuinely Canadian, proudly Canadian, 100% locally owned. We go through it. The point is, more is not better. Fewer words is better. People want easy. Icons are better. Think of the Nike swoosh. Think of the Canadian flag. They want to have one universal feel and look. So let's go through what's happened. There's also a whole bunch of visual images, right? From prepared in Canada, Canada below, to Canada on the shelf, to Canada's one of four things, to Canada's garage, to dairy farmers, which is proud product, to Tim's repurposing of Canadian flag, baked in Canada. Again, you look through crafted in Canada, that's a Miss Vicky's chip. Not sure what crafted means, but they used it, it works. Canada's #1 cough drop. So a bunch of different things we looked at. So first off, just think this. Which one is going to be the strongest to drive or encourage purchase? Made in Canada, Canadian made, product of Canada. And I'm just going to keep doing this so that you can actually think about it so you don't just go, of course. And the point is, made in Canada is #1 out of 40. Canadian made is good, and product Canada is good. But the fact is, made in Canada is better than the others. Let's go to the next one. Proudly made in Canada, it actually it's the same number. Genuinely Canadian, don't overthink it. Made in Canada is great. All three of them are great in ranked first, third, and eighth. But why get difficult? Why get more difficult? Have it instantaneously. Recognize what's going on. So made in Canada, made in the province, Canada Showcase. Canada Showcase, let's not overthink it. Made in the province, not nearly as strong as made in Canada. Okay? #1 versus number 14. Made in Canada is 64%, made in the province is 53%. Everyone asks about Quebec. Well, made in Canada is 75% encouraged in Quebec with made in Canada, 69% made in the province. Across Canada, you're a national brand, made in Canada is the best. If you're Quebec only brand, you can use either. We would still say that made in Canada is going to be the strongest across the board. #1 ranked versus number 14 ranked. If we continue, locally owned, locally made, support local. 3 different ways. If you're owned and made, those are specific claims. Just support local is a generic. Who can't say that? Which brand can't say support local? I'm not trying to embrace or teach Canadian washing, but the point is it's not tough to actually assimilate with what's going on in the marketplace if you're employing a bunch of people that actually help out the Canadian economy. Proudly made in Canada, proudly prepared across Canada, assembled in Canada. And you can see here, significantly stronger, proudly made in Canada. Prepared is a different word. Still strong, still encourages almost 1 and 2. And assembled in Canada, only some brands can do it. It's still positive. It's number 31 of the options. So we'd recommend going back in the bucket and test some other options, but it's still a strong opportunity. Employ Canadians in your community, employ Canadians born in Canada. meaning the brand is. They're the same. Employing Canadians is a strong calling card. It's number 24, but almost 1 in 2 are going that way. So we need to consider how, whatever your brand situation is, we're happy to work with you on it. Give Vanessa an email or me an email. We're happy to work with some different situations that we have. But there is a way to actually connect with the Canadian population. In Canada since 1954, people love to talk about that. Since 2014, support local. We said we're proudly Canadian since 70. We are, but that doesn't mean it's relevant. And the point here is it's okay, but support local is as strong as being in Canada since 1954. And just because we've been in Canada since 1954, that's really no better than 2014. It doesn't really matter. You've been here a while, you are Canadian. Made in Canada is better than either of those. And that's what we need to remember. Communicating and supporting the farmers of Canada has tremendous benefit to products today. We get lots of questions on this. Dairy Farmers of Canada encourages 63%, number 2 of the 40 messages. Egg farmers 58, chicken farmers 55, made with Canadian beef 55. All tremendous. We see it in Harvey's commercials, we see it in McDonald's commercials, we see it in a bunch of other commercials. The fact is, you see the Dairy Farmers logo on a bunch of milk brands. Exceptionally strong brand. And we strongly recommend you use them to differentiate and instantly have people recognize they're there. It's Canadian and it works. Focus on positivity. Made in Canada, 64%. Not made in the US, the reverse, goes to 40%. Made with 0% American products. I don't know if you saw the cheese that actually had 0% American products. I think it was at Dundas Square. At 41 points. Focus on positivity. Not only will it have immediate impact, it has lasting impact. Negative does not sell, and I've said that 30 times, and I apologize, but I hear too many conversations where they go, let's go on the negative side. Do not. You can if you want. If you want to be impactful, less effective, and you want to be impactful for a shorter period of time, go on the negative side, but we recommend going the strong. How about visual cues? Because words are fine, visual cues matter. So certainty, April 10th to 12th, 1,000 people. It's plus or minus 2%. It's fact-based. So we look at brand plus message and brand plus Canada message. Simple question. Which one are you most likely to purchase? Let's go back to February. We learned Canada packaging matters. Product in the shape of the Canadian flag in your messaging matters, even if you're an American product. 100% Canadian matters. The Big Mac, not without Canadian beef farmers, matters. Affiliation with Nations Face Off matters. Affiliation with Team Canada matters. This is best practices, and we're happy to share you the download of this from February 2025. Let's go to the new ones now. So which one will drive better ROI? Product Canada, which means you're 98% Canadian. That's the legal legal classification. Made in Canada means you're 51% Canadian. We're not suggesting say you're 51% Canadian, just made in Canada. So which one which one are you more likely to purchase? Stronger on the made in Canada. Even though it's harder to be product Canada, this actually drives more preference. And 5% won't buy either because they don't care. So both are very effective. Pick one. The recommendation of IMI is where possible, use made in Canada with the flag due to simplicity and immediate affinity. That's a no-brainer. Easy, simple, done. Home hardware, locally owned, genuinely Canadian. Genuinely Canadian is not the best. But the fact is there are others. But how does that compare to just their red and white logo? Significantly stronger, local and Canadian. So brand is critical, but if you can actually affiliate with Canadian, and people know that obviously in the communities, Canadian Tire versus Canadian Tire with the Olympics. Traditionally, this should accelerate, but the difference is Canadian Tire is not in there. Again, Canadian Tire, the logo its own, is stronger than Canadian Tire Triangle with the Olympics. Canadian Tire has exceptional brand equity. We measure 100 brands in brand equity. Canadian Tire is top of the heap. The logo says it all. With the COC, consider reinforcing with the Canadian Tire in the triangle, and they'd be equal or greater. But more actually often minimizes the impact. Sometimes it doesn't, but in this case, both would be strong. This just has stronger affinity today. Back in the 150th anniversary, Boston Pizza did Canada's Pizza, and then the Boston Pizza logo. You can see 47% just by doing a short play on Canada does work. We're not saying to rebrand yourself, but consider bringing back Canada's 150th anniversary name change and some ads during this time to reinforce the Canadiana. The time's not that long, but was just looking at different executions people have done. How about Tim Hortons repurposing their logo into the Canadian flag? And we can see a massive 74% versus 17. They leaned into Canada. They took it. They've been Canada for a long time. They have been bought by another firm that's not Canadian, but still revered on the Canadian front. How about Tim Hortons? Roll up the room to win. They brought back the cup, the most successful program we've measured in 40 years in 40 countries. Roll up the room to win. Cup is the most successful at driving purchase. So we look at here. We added this Tim Hortons down here. They didn't do this. We just said, what's going to happen? And you can see still a gain. With the most successful program, still a gain by affiliating yourself with Canadiana. You can't have too much. If you're asking, are people sick of it yet? They certainly aren't as of Sunday. Made with American 0% American cheese, Dairy Farmers of Canada quality milk. 92 to 5. We've tested hundreds. We've never seen this differentiation. There's no question between the two. The fact that you're made with 0% American cheese doesn't tell you what you're made with. If you're made with Dairy Farmers of Canada quality milk, they know what they make. So it's best in class logo. It tests strong. We're going to go down this road for a second here. How about this ice cream with Canada flag? Should we add something? We always talk about less is more and more is less. Well, we just added the Dairy Farmers Canada milk there. What happens? 77 versus 11. Trusted marks can fuel purchase. They do fuel purchase, even on top. And Chapman's done a great job on the Canadiana. So even on top, it drives it even further. How about Tim Hortons? An array of different products. Tim Hortons with the dairy farmers up here. Significantly increases with this. Well-renowned, universal name, huge percentage of the market share in QSR and coffee, and still having dairy farmers elevates and accelerates. So that's it overall. Here we'd have a Canadian bullseye on the left-hand side. You've got Made in Canada, you got the original here, you got Scotties, you got the NHL, you got a lot of logos, you got cancer. The fact is, this is a Canadian bullseye on being Canadian. Missing the mark, no flag, no Made in Canada, no Canadian except Crave Canadian, but you can't see it because artistically they put it in the background. In our opinion, that's missing the mark. A Canadian bullseye is made in Canada. Keep it simple when possible. Less is always more. How simple can you make it? So, in my opinion, this commercial that some of you have seen, we have an election coming up very shortly. Exceptional work to tie a political party to everything Canadian. With Mike Myers, with Canada, with Never 51, with Wow, you really are Canadian. The see-say principle of advertising, especially video. See-say, which means you say it at the exact same time, it actually increases comprehension 25%. This is best practice. Whoever did that work, kudos to them. Not because it's liberal, just from a fact of tying into Canada with a Canada flag in the back as well. This here, walking in my neighborhood. Here we have re-elect. Here we have a Canadian flag with red and white. But wouldn't a Canadian flag look good there? You might go, well, it's political. They know we're Canadian. You can't help but reinforce. Think of Tim Hortons. Think everywhere you go. So this is an example of, I truly believe, the marketing and advertising of how they came to life had a huge impact or will have a huge impact on this upcoming election. Because they're following best practices, they're actually listening to what Canadians are saying. They might not do what Canadians want, but they're certainly listening at this time to what Canadians saying. I'm done with my soapbox now. So in summary, don't underestimate the power of emotion unity and significant impact on Canadians. Embrace the core if you haven't already, and ensure authenticity in your efforts. Authentically Canadian. Where and when possible, keep it simple and universal. Your brand will benefit from Made in Canada. A simple, non-treated red Canadian flag is best. People, if you look at what people are doing, they try and screw around with it, change the edges, change everything. Just make it simple. If you cannot do that, consider a logo in the shape of the flag, a product in the shape of the flag, or something else, like we saw McDonald's do with their French fries. Find ways to show up. If you're not a Canadian company, buy, but employ, package, assemble, operate here. Consider ways to visually support adding a Canadian flag to creative package shelf. Message with the flag, employ Canadians, packed in Canada, assembled in Canada. Not as strong and made in Canada, but you're not. But the fact is you can still you can still move it. And someone's going to say it costs a lot of money to repackage. It costs a lot of money to lose a lot of business. You'll know if you are losing business, you might not be in a category which is, but if you are, it's worth the change. I would fight that fight. I would move that fight. I would make sure that I'm relevant to Canadians, especially if you require 45 plus, affluent, to drive your business, crucial to have those people in there. So let's look at the questions and answers, audience. So this is beforehand. Vanessa's team works, captures people, participate, and we'll look at 5 questions. Welcome back, Vanessa.
But the Q&A. Um, thanks so much, Don. Before we go into questions, like it's just such an incredible thing when you say this is a once in a lifetime opportunity to really change certain cohorts. So, the 18 to 39 are doing what's convenient. But there are some that are changing, but that older cohort and the more affluent cohort that doesn't usually change. So, Canadian destinations, consumer packaged goods, events, all the things that you talked about, just like in the audience, I know we have a lot of different vantage points that are with us today, but consider where you are and consider, what's going on in your world and what you can do to invite people in. Because at the end of the day, if you're not out there, you really don't exist to consumers. And it's really difficult to break through knowing that, the number one risk in 2025 and beyond is being ignored. So, what can you do right now to stand out and help drive you forward? It's pretty fascinating.
Absolutely. And you said, I mean, absolutely. And the point is, we deal with so many brands that go, I can't get the 45 or 50. They're set in their ways for 15, 20 years. And they're almost impossible. No matter what you throw at them, except for money, will change their behavior. Now's their time that linking in with this theme will actually potentially allow you to get them to switch behavior and be more price resistant. They might not only buy on price. So I was going to flip through some of these questions here. And we got to ask the question, what impact, if any, did the Myers-Kearney commercial really have? Very cynical of what's going on. But if you look at the candidate, you look at what we just talked about, you look at the sentiment, things we've never seen before. And I'm talking tens and hundreds of millions of surveys I've done in the Canadian marketplace on every single topic. Never seen something like this. Well, let's see what happens. March 31st, top 10. Which leaders, people, and celebrities do you believe have done a great job promoting and supporting Canada during this trade and tariff dispute? Top 3, Carney, Ford, and Justin Trudeau.
Amazing.
Number 4, Mike Myers. 4.1 million people, unaided, put his name in, saying the fact is they've done a great job. So that commercial, that impact, him showing up on Saturday Night Live, you can argue too, when he has his Canadian Tire t-shirt. But this has a tremendous impact, and Polyev is in there tied with Myers. Other people, Daniel Smith, Jagmeet Singh, David Abbey, Elizabeth May, and Melanie Jolie are there. So, but people are fickle. How's it moved in the last 2 weeks? And we'll go to this weekend. Mike Myers, still number 4. If we don't think that commercial had an impact, it's tremendous. Now we got Ryan Reynolds, we got Michael Bublé, who came up and hosted the Junos and did a great opening speech on that. And you've got a whole bunch of honorable mentions down here that you can go through, and there's more to look through. But the fact is, that ad was so on point, was so on Canada. 2 Canada shirts, but that wasn't enough. They put a Canadian flag in the middle and nothing else to get in the way. Just 2 people talking. They said, well, you are Canadian. Like, they did everything they should to drive it. And the fact
Talk
is,
about ROI on
you
that
see,
one.
and ROI is going to probably paint them for, this isn't the only reason. There's other reasons with leadership, but this is a significant best practice for political or advertising right now.
And there's a number of different honorable mentions that, that have stayed true as well. Arlene Dickinson, we know that she has been speaking a lot on being Canadian and supporting Canadian. Keanu Reeves and Murray, a lot of different names are coming into play there as well as time goes on.
And Maclean's did an article on Wayne Gretzky today, just got published, but on the negative backlash. But we're going to be publishing some stuff shortly. As many people like and follow him as does Sidney Crosby. Has some been tarnished? Yes, but not to the effect that others would like it to be, I believe, because it's not as newsworthy. But there has been some negatives, but you see the positive there. There are a lot of people out there, and you can see what's going on there. It's interesting that that even when we ask products and services and other factors, you don't see a lot of news channels being there. So what impact, if any, execution has a significant positive impact that's also likely lasting and likable. The fact is human. A reminder for all brands is not to spend medium or always on, which I hear bragged about. We're always on. Well, who cares if you're always on if you're not always relevant and compelling? Impacts driven by the content, which is this, the medium, which is TV or video or online or it's everywhere, and the spend levels. Having being on the right medium with the right spend with bad content or mediocre content will not break through, will not last. We see that over and over and over again. So again, content is obviously king, as is the medium we spend.
And it's positive. You talked a lot about in your presentation about the impact of positivity and not going on the negative side. And so that is it was a very positive spot, very simple, but has had a positive bent into it with, smiling and joking. So that really drives behavior.
That's a great point. And the fact is, it was not anti-US. It was pro-Canadian. You are Canadian. Mike Myers, you live in the U.S. Are you still? And asked a bunch of questions. They made fun of what's going on. So again, um, well done. Next question: is this a unique, compelling time to sample Canadian products? Obviously, I would imagine from one of our sampling agency friends.
Yes, it was.
But let's just look at what's going on. Uh, Again, overwhelming two-thirds of Canadians desire to sample or experience Canadian products and services. This just is not food and beverage. This is Canadian products. This is anywhere you can touch. This is to increase, decrease, or not change your intention. Increase a lot, 41%. Increase a little, 27%, because it's 68% across the board, including the older group. 45 plus off to the right here do not like to be intercepted, do not want to be engaged. When it's a Canadian product right now, they've changed behavior again. You have the opportunity to intercept with a car, with a cell phone, with a telecommunication, with a bank, with things they don't ever change. Take the opportunity and look at that. Has not changed, but I love sampling new products up to 18% more. So that's 86%. And I know the retailers sit there and go, people hate sampling. People love sampling. They've always loved sampling as long as the sample is clean, convenient, well represented, elevates the experience. Here is a massive opportunity to get to people across all regions, across all ages, across all income levels. Fact based. If you're a Canadian product, what do I do? Even if you're not a Canadian product, but you have some Canadian in you, intercept people, your target market, live on the streets, live at the events, however you can. That's a key area. Summertime's coming up. Tremendous opportunity to actually intercept, activate your sponsorships, activate your properties. It's a great opportunity.
And if you
And you
think
see
too
down
about
here,
sampling, sorry, on your brand as well, like, so think about, not just for that moment, but for your brand, sampling drives trial and trial drives purchase. If you deliver, it also drives trust. And we know that for a brand, trust is absolutely paramount. So, it's a huge opportunity from multiple perspectives to get out there and get your brand in front of people.
100%. You can see down here, I hate sampling. Stores should not allow it. 3%, 2%, 3%, 60 plus 3%. They don't hate it. The stores hate it for some reason. The consumer doesn't hate it, and it's a great way to get your brand noticed. Appropriate to engage people's perceptions. 80% are good with it being intercepted on the street. Forget about the store. 83% are think perfectly acceptable by being approached by a brand, and 90% being invited to see a product. Do not be afraid to be out there. If you hear the shit that you can't do that, you can. People want it, engage it, and people will buy after experiencing if it's a good experience. So activate your brand, engage Canadians, elevate their experience. And it could be a sample here, it could be a truck, it could be TIFF, where lots of people in line looking at celebrities. And I can't tell you how many people always said, well, that was a Rogers NHL worst deal ever. I'm talking back when they did it 11 years ago or whatever the number was. I mean, they just signed back April 3rd, $11 billion deal announced. They have hockey to 2037, 38.
So I guess it's going okay.
They're going to activate everywhere. It's worth every cent. So sampling, sponsorship, properties, if you actually engage it, elevate consumers' experience and spend the money to activate, you kill it. It is so phenomenally successful. And we measure 112 different activation tactics with sponsorship being for them. Or
Well, also think about all the things going on in people's lives right now and everything they're hearing and everything going on in the media, and all of the concerns. When they go out and they experience something, it brightens their day. It brightens their life. It allows them to connect with others. And that if your brand can be a part of that and part of that positivity of brightening somebody's day, that stands and that sticks.
100%. And they talk about creating memories, which is a tough objective, but that's what experiences are supposed to do. So there's no better time to activate your partnership, consider new partnerships, and drive impact. Um, Question three, with all the uncertainty, what are some of the long-term strategies and approaches that brands, agencies, properties should employ today that will still be impactful regardless of what happens? So what should we do now that's going to stand the test of time?
Exactly.
One of the things that Vanessa is going to do in her next session is go deeper into this because we didn't have time to do both. And things will change over the next 6 weeks before her webinar. But accelerating your brand is critical. Vanessa talks about all the time. Out of 112 different tactics, be findable, trusted brand name, third. It's the same as online. Trusted brand name, healthy. My brand makes me feel good, ninth. Like the social media is at the end and it's over 50% of media spend. And that's because it's a medium, it's not a content, right? You can engage and educate and entertain, but how do you get people to feel good? Consumer ratings, recommendations, the fundamentals. So what's going to happen, and I want your obviously opinion on this, Vanessa, because this is your specialty, but what you did 30 years ago, if you're around, or 15 years ago, or 5 years ago, your most successful stuff outside of price, because I don't see price discounting being successful, is going to work. Build your brand, and that builds everything. Any other comments you want to make on this first one?
Yeah, I mean, I think that building your brand is absolutely critical. We know that it drives success. We know that it drives long-term success, short-term success, and trust is absolutely paramount. So if you don't have trust, make sure that you build it. And if you do have trust, really protect it with everything that you've got, so that you don't lose those consumers over the course of time.
Excellent.
But
Any
more on brand on the 29th when we come back.
perfect. The times to act now, embrace Canada and local. We're seeing Canada flag. Some people want other stuff, provincial. I don't need to fight the political game. The point is, local works, provincial works not as well, except in Quebec. Canada works, simplicity works, embrace it and do it now. And if you do it right now, meaning if we do it correctly now, it will stand the test of time for longer than you can imagine because of the actual emotional tie to this cause. Engage with compelling content from the past, present, into the future. Unaided, we saw Joe Canadian come out from Molson.
Mhm.
Many online right now probably don't know who Joe Canadian is, but the real Canadian, there is an opportunity. Think about it. 45-year-old beer drinkers, they're set in their way for 15 years. Most beer brands in Canada are not Canadian except if they're craft. There's a chance to bring some stuff back if they want to. But we haven't seen Joe Canadian on, so I don't have much faith we'll see this come back either.
Well, and we also talk a lot about, Don, the fact that look and see what you already have. You don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel. You don't necessarily have to spend a lot of money. I mean, if we look at the ad that the Liberal ad that we were talking about earlier, that wouldn't be a lot, a big, huge production. There's obviously production dollars, but simple is also very compelling. And look in your arsenal, look at what you've done before. You don't have to reinvent the wheel to drive and to engage and to drive your ROI at the same time. So also consider that when you're considering your plans.
Absolutely. And the point is we test a lot of stuff from 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago to prove the point. Start in your archives. People don't get promoted typically because they repurpose someone's old work. But I can tell you right now, here's a time to check the ego because you have an opportunity to do phenomenal work, not spend as much money, do more with budget to actually drive it forward. Great point.
Yeah.
The point is activate your brand, elevating people's experience. We just talked about it. So that is going to last forever. You can create an experience, you create a memory that's going to last forever. If you intercepted the person during the Four Nations face-off in Montreal on that Saturday night, Canada, US, for those first 9 seconds, if you actually intercepted and elevate, they'll remember that forever. The point is Sidney Crosby's goal in 10, remembered forever. How do you create those moments? You're talking about two hockey moments. There are other moments. It could be at a concert. It could be at a festival. It could see your kids at the Calgary Stampede. It could be anywhere that you actually activate. It could be in a retail store. You might be a retail presence. The point is, how do we actually elevate people's experience? So three ingredients, we say it all the time. These are only three things that matter. You can check every piece of creative against this. Think about Mike Myers and Carney. Think about anything you look at is if you want success 10 years ago or 10 years in the future, be relevant, be compelling, and be better than competition. Those are the three things. If you're a 3 for 3, fantastic. If you're a 2 for 3, you might have a chance. If you're unique, new, different, and that's what you focus on, good luck to you. You'll spend way too much money, and there's no guarantee. You could still be relevant, compelling, and better than competition, but typically unlikely. Question 4, are people tiring, sick of, resistant to more Canadian and messaging, flags, visuals, and
We've
programs?
had this question from everywhere over the last little while.
And I would say the boardroom's getting the sickest of it. But we can see by the trends, people are not. And what do we have here? Bring on the maple syrup. 75% want more of the same. They don't want to change. 20% hate everything. They want more or the same amount. Okay, so 9 million Canadians don't think there's enough yet. And this is across age groups. And this is among older cohorts, which hate all this kind of stuff. This time, they're motivated, they're engaged, they're elevated. So if the boardroom says, are you sick of it? They're not sick of it now. And which brands are benefiting in Canada, being recognized, if any? And people have questions about who's a US brand, who's a Canadian brand. Canadians don't think that way. A lot of people don't know which brand, who owns which brands. A lot of people don't know where they are. They know they've shopped or purchased that product for the last 50 years or 20 years. If they bought it in Canada, it becomes Canada. So let's see, unaided, which products, brands, or services do you believe have done a great job promoting and supporting your country during this trade war? It's your country because we've done it in multiple different countries. Number one, unaided, Tim Hortons, 9 million people. Canadian Tire, number 2, same number. Number
Not
3,
surprising.
Loblaws, because they're one of the first to come out with the tariff. Number 4, dairy farmers. We just did a bunch on dairy farmers, but unaided, that's a pretty big number for an association. You don't see other associations up here. And Sobeys at 7%. Those are the top 5. We'll give you the top 30 though. Walmart's there. You go, well, they're not Canadian, they're not American. Well, the fact is they employ a lot of Canadians, so they're okay. LCBO, Boston Pizza, Costco, they're American. They employ a lot of Canadians. Crap, you can argue a lot of different things. The fact is, this is a list. This is what Canadians are thinking. This is who they think has done a great job. Products you bought in the past 2 months to support Canada. So what are you buying? Tim Hortons number 1, no name brand number 2, Canadian Tire number 3.
No Name was a really interesting one. I think we were all surprised by that one
Very,
coming out.
very surprised.
Hmm.
So if we look through this, we go through and we see a lot of Canadian brands. Maple Leaf Foods, Chapman's, Canada Goose, Lululemon, A&W, Boston Pizza. So even though the name says Boston Pizza, they know it's Canadian. Walmart's in there. Kicking Horse Coffee, it's a Canadian club. I mean, bourbon's off a lot of shelves, unfortunately. Um, and then you look through what's going on down to Cineplex. You see, I think, no, Blackberry's not in this one, it's in the next one. So what brands, products, or services will you buy in 25 that you've never purchased in the past? Which is a bit of a shocking number if you look at number 1. Tim Hortons, Canadian Tire, Loblaws. So never purchased, you're going to get people to go to their way to go there. They haven't bought there in the past, or they're young and they haven't gone there. And
And
again,
there's the
we have a
change.
list. So we look there, there's 50 different ones. There's a long list of mostly Canadian, definitely employ Canadian, but thought of as Canadian because they don't just go Canadian brand, not Canadian. If they've used to buying in Canada, that now becomes a Canadian brand to them.
Well, it's also a list across segments and categories. And so, when you think about your consumer is purchasing multiple things. It's not just about you. So, there are tons of different opportunities, no matter what category you're in or what segment you're in, there is an opportunity for you out there right now.
100%. And what products will you go out of your way to purchase because they're Canadian? Tim Hortons, 3.8 million people going out of their way. Canadian Tire, 1.6. Maple Leaf Foods, 1.4 with the leaf, and the fact is, anyone that has a leaf, buy it. Maple syrup in general, Chapman's, 800,000 people. That's a big number for Chapman's. And it goes on, and the list goes on. These are hundreds of thousands of people. But that's
Yeah.
a big number to actually change. You see Hudson's Bay down there, even if they're going through some significant problems, you still see them in place there. So that's the answer to that question. Is there any additional questions, or are we done?
There was one question that came through on the chat, and it was about curious what the number one is in messaging, beating out Made in Canada. But I think that what you were saying was that Made in Canada is the number one message.
Made in Canada is the number one message.
Okay.
It ranked number one.
Yeah,
We
I just wanted to clarify that for the attendee, just to make sure that we were really clear that it is made in Canada, no matter what you're comparing to. If you can say made in Canada, that is going to be paramount.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for being here. And we are working on this already to add into that to provide more guidance, more depth, more breadth for brands to actually act. And Vanessa, I'm sure we'll feed her a little update on where people are, but we're at a level we've never seen before. And integrating with Canada is crucial for brands. Once in my lifetime, once in a generation's time, to motivate older, affluent to change behavior and possibly get them for a long period of time. So we say take action quickly and you might be surprised at success. Thank you
Yeah,
all for
and
being here.
throw us any questions along the way as well.
Absolutely. Thank you all. Thanks, Vanessa.
Thanks for joining. Thanks, Don.